And I'm so excited to spend a few minutes with you talking about how RTEs, I believe, make or break a transformation. If you looked at the slight description on this, I believe RTE is a very pivotal role. Now, if you look at our guidance, you're not going to see that much of it. We do have an RTE class where we go into a deeper dive, but what I want to share with you tonight are some success patterns that I believe have helped RTEs influence the overall transformation of their entire enterprise, not just their one agile release train. And then I've also experienced some RTEs who in pockets have actually destroyed the integrity of the transformation within one or more agile release trains within that enterprise. So I want to share some success stories, some things that might not work so well, and give you some action steps coming out of here of where you can actually start on this path. All right, so we already did this in chat. We got this out of the way. Lots of RTEs, some product people, some coaches, and others. So this looks like a busy slide. Don't worry, all my slides are not this text heavy. But what I wanted to do is the current guidance we have for RTEs. If you look at the article, there's a lot of stuff. And I can only imagine if you're an RTE starting out and you look at this, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I really going to move the needle and help all of the people, all of the teams on my agile release train if I have this many things to do? So tonight we're going to focus. I believe there's some tactical responsibilities for RTEs, some that are kind of in the middle and some that are really more strategic. We're going to focus on some of these strategic ones and how you can actually really help to influence the success of these transformations. So let's start by this. This is this overarching theme that I want you to keep top of mind throughout this presentation. And those of you who know me know that I try to relate the principles and the values to everything that I do. Because I believe that if we don't, then all we're really doing is going through some ceremonies. So as I'm looking at all of you, does it ever feel like that it just, there's all these meetings that could get put on your calendar and it's just one thing after another after another? I believe that sometimes over time, you want to make some changes to your arts, right? You've evolved a little bit. You want to try out, experiment on a few things. I believe these principles and values help guide you and your decisions on items like that to know if you're still going in the right direction, or maybe, gosh, if we make a pivot and make some changes here, we might not have the best outcomes that we're hoping to achieve. So let's start by focusing on some of the strategics. Flow. We hear about flow all the time. We talk about managing queue lengths. We talk about work in progress limits. All right, let's be honest here. How many of you, like me, have a problem with your work in progress numbers? Anyone else working on more than one thing at a time? Right. So thanks, Jason. I see at least one response there. So I believe that part of the success of an RTE is that they look to optimize the throughput of value within their agile release train. Even when we start off and organizing our R to run value, there's going to be some dependencies on potentially some teams in another agile release train, and that's okay. But over time, I want as RTEs to look for those patterns and say, do I consistently have to go to the same team over and over and over again before we can actually commit to our features in our PI planning? Because this is an amazing opportunity for RTEs to say, okay, what is the skill set that the people on that other team have that I could probably bring into my team? What are some of those opportunities so we don't have to keep going outside, but we're actually continuing to evolve and to bring in a lot more skill sets into that team? Have you ever heard something such as, gosh, well, I can't move forward. We can't move forward as a team because so-and-so is on vacation? Ever experienced that? That's what RTEs need to listen for. Those are great opportunities to explore and say, okay, if I only have one person that can do something, that's a problem for us. Maybe not just our agile release train, but maybe us as an enterprise. So the next one, Relentless Improvement. What we have as the guidance on the website is really working with your Agile PMO on some program execution and operational excellence. And what we mean by this is think of all of those patterns that you're seeing, all of those improvement items that you're implementing within your art that would be very valuable for you to share, not just within other arts in your portfolio, but across your enterprise. You might not really have many dealings with other arts, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be sharing some of those successes that you're experiencing based on some experiments that you're making. Program execution, like I had mentioned, of some of those dependencies that are over and over again. What are you going to do about it? Strong RTEs look to solve some of these problems. The next one is relationships. Really cultivate relationships on trust. The SAFE Summit that's coming up in a few months, my talk is on the interactions between the business owners and the RTE, because I believe that is one of the most important relationships that an RTE can cultivate. Here's why. When we think of our business owners, we think of the people who have the fiduciary responsibility for the art. They are helping guide the art. They are sharing the business context, the state of the business. They know what's coming up next. They have the strategies. The RTE is really representing that execution piece. Decision making. We have some guardrails, right? Those of you who have looked at the framework, you see that there's some guardrails that we have in place that we need to operate within. And the RTE is making sure that you're doing that. Think as an example of a capacity allocation. Are we only working on specific, all business intent? All of that stuff that's going to have direct user value? Or are we making sure that we're taking care of our system? Are we building our architectural runway? Great RTEs keep an eye on this as a holistic, they have that systems thinking and they're looking at everything and they're looking at every piece and part of that to make sure that we are investing in those different areas. So learning, this is a favorite for me. Communities of practice. How many of you are involved in a community of practice? Yes, seeing some hands raised. I would like to challenge you, if you're involved in a community of practice in your business unit, to actually extend that and learn about ones in other parts of your business. I was teaching about this today in my class. I want you to consider, as an enterprise, when they make the decision that they want to move forward with a Lean-Agile transformation, you're doing it potentially business unit by business unit. Now imagine if each one of those business units stayed siloed and didn't really interact with the other ones. That to me is a big miss. So I've seen amazing RTEs that reach out to other RTEs and actually create communities of practice with RTEs across their enterprise. Similar to what Audrey had stated before that I did with SPCs. What are some of those success patterns? What are some of those things that you're like, gosh, I need a little bit of help with this? I might need some guidance. I might need some coaching. I also put a link if you're interested in something that keeps evolving, but I created a couple of years ago called Learning Networks. And it's really an opportunity for people to meet other people in other areas of the business and learn from them and bring those skills into their specific Agile release train. I've seen some RTEs that are intent on, this is what the business is telling me. This is what we need to deliver. We don't have time for learning. That is one of the top things that can have a transformation go off the rails. But a great RTE makes sure that learning is first and foremost the number one concern on that art. We are learning in everything that we're doing. And we're not just relying on outside and going externally to achieve that learning. So objective measures. Creating and socializing a set of metrics that tell the story of the arts. I can't count the number of conversations that I've had with senior leaders in organizations that say, Audrey, but I need to make sure that my people are working. I need to make sure that they're productive. Where's the evidence of that? So I'm here to tell you that RTEs, that sometimes they're like, okay, my business owners want this. We need to start creating metrics and starting to look at velocity, story points, and things like that, are not very helpful. What I like to suggest, and some of the best RTEs I've seen do this, is they start trying to understand truly what value those leaders are looking for. At the end of the day, it's not just about productivity. When you start to think about and talk about quality, you start to talk about employee engagements, you start to talk about your time to market, your cycle times, other things. There's a whole slew of things that are going to really tell the story of that art. And to me, RTEs that help propel their agile release train forward are the ones that do just that. But the ones that are stuck on that red, yellow, green light, yes, I said it, doesn't really give us a true sense of if we are successful in what we are building, and if our customers are really going to like it. Are we wowing our customers with what we're building? So the next one is connecting the vision to the work. How many of you are really inspired by doing the work that you do if you're missing the insight into how it fits into the big picture? I know I'm not. Then all we're doing is really churning out work. We had 2 agile release train. One I called, and I'm going to talk about this in my summit talk too. So this is just a coming soon, I guess, on this one. I had one that was a revolving door art. People were leaving so fast they couldn't even replace them. The other one, you couldn't get people to leave, which is also an attrition problem because businesses expect that there's a certain percentage of people that would leave each year. The one that didn't want to leave totally understood the work that they were doing and how it actually helped propel their organization forward. They felt totally connected, not just to their portfolio, but also to their enterprise at large. Leading as a community. All right, so I'm going to say it. I sometimes upset RTEs in my RTE classes when I share this thought. If an outsider, somebody who doesn't understand, somebody who does not know anyone really on your arts was invited, could be an external customer, could be somebody from another business unit. If they came into your PI planning session and they didn't immediately know who the RTE was, many times that's because that's a sign of an amazing RTE. And here's why. They've created such a strong community of the Scrum Masters in that art that they're leading that art together. Yes, they have different audiences of the people that they're coaching and their day-to-day job. But when you're coming together as an entire Agile release train, it needs to be shown as a community. I had one RTE say, this is my art. And by the way, I'm also an SPC in addition to being an RTE, so I don't even need a coach. This is my space, I've got it. You can only imagine some of the outcomes that happened there that just were not so successful. But on the other hand, I've seen RTEs that share this. They share the stage, I will call it. They share give their Scrum Masters visibility, help grow and coach them. And that's what we're supposed to do as Lean Agile leaders. We are here to help grow people so they can do the best work of their lives. That's our job. So I was going to say that was it, but there's really one more. And this is like my number one, creating the environment. And yes, that's the castle in the background. I took that last week from Splash Mountain. So really establishing a healthy, growing, innovative, trusting environment is my top piece of advice here. The rest is going to follow. If the environment is not there, you can have all of the tools in your toolkit, but not engage, and inspire people to make the right decisions, to focus on outcomes versus how much work can we get done, to focus on building relationships and sharing successes so that they can teach and coach and mentor in other areas of the business. It's about creating that safe space, no pun intended. It's about respecting people and protecting the iteration and planning, the innovation and planning iteration. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Strong RTEs know when to push back when something's going to impact the health of their team. So I have a couple of things. We have a bunch of time left here so we can ask some questions, but I want you to first and foremost explore the values and principles. Be curious about them. Look for ones that you can start to think about. One of the things that we started doing at Scaled Agile is during our PI planning, not only do we have a set of objectives, but we've actually changed the board so that we've added a safe value, one of those House of Lean principles, something that each team is going to focus on this PI. That team chooses. This is what's really helping us keep these top of mind throughout everything that we do. We also went through and had workshops with our teams to each create a team purpose so that everybody understands, what does that team stand for? What are some of the things that we can count on them for? And that has been super helpful. Feel free to try that out and experiment, and I'd love to hear how that works for you as well. And I want you to focus, instead of all of these patterns that I've shared tonight, focus on one or two of them. This is all about looking at things incrementally, right? Find that one that you're most curious about. Maybe it's seeing how you can look for those impediments, things that keep coming up over and over again that are impeding your flow. Maybe looking for some ideas of bringing those skills into your art. And then my third is really share what you've learned. Don't just keep it to yourself. We have found that by sharing it, you end up actually being inspired. You get more ideas in addition to them. So now I am going to send it back to Audrey to open it up for any of the questions, and we can have a conversation about that now.